Google is rolling out Gemini AI chatbot to kids with these important safety warnings. If you are a parent, here's what you need to know. If you don't already know, Gemini is Google's version of ChatGPT. You may have already heard of ChatGPT, what it is, what it does. Some schools have started pushing AI into their curriculum, and this is probably why Google feels justified in pushing Gemini AI out, or at least sort of a neutered version for kids. But this is exactly what it can do and how your child will be able to use it. One caveat that I do want to make sure is that this applies to parents who have the Parent Link software that they use with their kids. This is basically like Apple's version, or the Google version of Apple's parental controls, where you can choose kind of what apps your kid has access to, whilst also making sure that they have an email account and stuff, so they can still kind of use things and learn how to become a sort of a functional adult. So this is the exact email that they sent out to parents. This is kind of last minute notice, I'd say, because when they said Gemini apps will soon be available to your children, I think it's coming out next week. So I think most parents will probably miss this message. And one thing I don't actually know is, there we go. Yeah, so it says you can manage these settings, including turning access off. So that means it's going to be on by default. I don't know how many families are using Family Link, but this is what they can do. So the kids can create stories, songs, and poetry. They can ask the AI questions. Don't know what. And they can get homework help and more. So very vague. I believe this is an interesting development. It looks like they kind of want. It's kind of like the Chromebook situation where they kind of gave away millions of Chromebooks free to schools around the world, so that if the kids grow up using Chromebooks and Chrome and Google software, when they get older, they're more likely to use Android devices, etc. I don't know how likely that is in terms of how that's gone, but it does seem like most people are using Chrome as a browser, as their preferred browser. So maybe this is kind of their way of doing the same thing, but for AI. So let's look at some extra bits that Google said for parents in particular. So Google emphasized the need for parents to remind their children that Gemini isn't human. So they're putting that on you, parents, to make sure you tell your children that Gemini isn't human. Even though sometimes it talks like one, it can't think for itself or feel emotions. So this is basically Google's way of saying, if your kid believes that Gemini is a real person and it talks like a real person and it becomes their friend, that's your fault for not telling your kids. It also told parents that Gemini can also make mistakes. So parents are reminded to show children how to double check responses and teach them how to think critically about the chatbot's responses. Yeah, this is for under 13s. I don't know how many of you guys have children under the age of 13. I mean, 13, they probably have developed some kind of critical thinking skills. But when I was 12, 11, 10, I believed everything. And if I think I had a chatbot who feels like someone else talking to me and I can give it a name, I would believe that there's a real person on the other end of that. At least I was probably talking to real people when I was using Habbo Hotel. I mean, probably not the same age nor the same gender, but at least a human was on the other line. Let's proceed. Parents must remind children not to enter sensitive or personal information in the Google AI chatbot. Once again, children will tell Gemini everything. They know exactly how children are going to use Gemini. The fact that they have to put this tells you that they know. While Gemini comes with filters, its screening of inappropriate content is still not perfect. What does that mean? Google said, your children may encounter content that you don't want them to see. I mean, if these aren't red flags. Let's proceed. So this is from the FAQ page in Gemini, where it just says, limitations are that Gemini may hallucinate. If anyone has used a chatbot, they hallucinate. So for parents, what would I recommend? I would recommend that they turn it off I would recommend that if they were to turn it on, to only use it in supervised times. I would recommend that the children don't use it on their mobile phones, that the children use it kind of, I'll just recommend just get a computer, old fashioned, stick it in the living room so you can kind of see what your kid is up to at all times. I do understand this need to learn AI, but if they're sticking it in the curriculum, that's how they're going to learn it in a safe environment, in a school. And I don't think that this is necessary at the moment. This just kind of feels like Google's way of competing with character AI, which is the AI chatbot kind of going viral online, where people are kind of getting attracted to it because you can have Harry Potter voices and what else? Who else is a heartthrob character? I'm not in that world, so I don't know. But that kind of turned into like cosplay stuff. But people are actually falling in love with those characters, and I think Google is trying to subtly get involved with that and try and get Gemini as the default platform that kids use. So parents, big warning, keep an eye out, and if you use Family Link, to make sure that it's switched off and to only use it in supervised times.